In a world that can be challenging, and at times unpredictable, it's hard to find moments to focus on what you need. Join Stephanie James on The Spark as she guides you to use your inner flame to ignite your best life. As a best-selling author, psychotherapist, transformational life coach, and international show host, Stephanie is dedicated to helping you create a life that takes you, your goals, and your passions to the next level, so you can live a life that is fully lit up and fully alive. She believes that your life is meant to be a beautiful expression of the things that light you up. That by living your dreams, you give permission to others to do the same. Are you ready to feel alive and inspired to fuel your dreams and put a fire behind your desires? Let's ignite a spark in one another that will illuminate the world. The Spark, with your host Stephanie James, starts now.
Welcome to The Spark. I'm your host, Stephanie James. So thrilled to have you here with us tonight. What an amazing time this has been. I know that so often we get all these messages that can feel really scary in our world. And if we watch too much television or news, we can be bombarded with some negative messages. And, you know, I always tell my clients, if you're having negative thoughts, it's like you're tuned into a frequency, just like a radio channel. And that frequency, if it's playing a song you don't like, or it's telling you messages you don't like, turn the channel and you can turn into a different frequency. And I am so thrilled tonight to share with you someone who is on an absolutely high frequency and is bringing just a beautiful message in all of her gifts. And this is Junie Swadron. So excited to have her here. Her book is Your Life Matters, and her podcast is the same. For over 30 years, Junie, who's an author and a psychotherapist, has been helping people rewrite the stories of their lives to move them from pain in the past to living more fully and present in today and thriving. So thrilled to have you here with us, Junie. Thank you for being here.
It's an absolute honor. It's such an honor, Stephanie. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, we've just been in such an amazing conversation before we jump on here. So it's almost hard for me to know where to begin. Let's talk a little bit, though, about, I know you have these online groups right now that you've been doing that are just beautiful ways of helping people to rewrite their story. And boy, do we all need to rewrite our story, you know, and so often we're telling ourselves false narratives, or, you know, we have a story that's kind of holding us captive, if you will, to the past. Yes. So talk a little bit about, you know, what is that workshop about, and what is that work about, Junie?
Okay, thanks for asking. Well, the work is just what it says. It's about rewriting those stories that have given us pain and anguish and feelings of alienation and depression or anger, or all of that stuff that we don't want to carry. And yet sometimes we're carrying them for years and we don't know how to get beyond them. And I don't think that's what we really want to do, but so many people are ill-equipped to know what to do to make whatever they do try last and be sustainable, and to find a place of looking at those same stories through a different lens. And the lens is one of, well, there's so many things to unpack, but it's about looking through a lens of what other story could be told about this same situation, right? Because we are often offended by certain things that may be a misinterpretation. And sometimes it's not a misinterpretation. It's not that we were offended, we were abused. I mean, we can go through all kinds of the worst heinous things, and yet there is absolutely no benefit to live with the hell of that inside our own cells. And so I learned that at a young age, that I needed to find a way beyond the resentments I was carrying, the pain I was carrying. And so I did, and I developed a program years ago. I'm a writer, and I've used writing as a healing modality, even as long as I've had my therapy practice, right, which is over 30 years now. And so writing has always been my primary way to move from one set of thinking to another, because you're using another part of the brain, and you bypass the logical in your mind, and and insights come up, and clarity comes up, and things that you wouldn't know. I mean, writing's magic. And so I facilitated a group for many years called Sacred Stories, Celebrating Your Life Journey. And then I wrote the book Rewrite Your Life, that was based on that group. And then, so I did that for many years. And then I kind of moved on to other things. And it was also on another platform online. And then I put it on my own website called Rewrite to Reignite Your Life. And it's still there. And now I'm actually passing the torch, and I'm certifying therapists and healers and facilitators who want to take that program into their own practice, and or parts of it, and be certified to offer it. And so I'm actually starting that in October, but there's and I can talk more about that, for that, if people want to sign up for that, basically we can talk about that. So there's a gift in that. But it really is about that. It's about, like you said, when we when we want to change the way what's going on, we can change the channel, like a radio channel, and just change the frequency, change the channel. And for me, and I believe that's true for you, it's not about denying what we're feeling. No, we need to express it. We absolutely need to express it. And at the same time, there's ways of expressing it so that our needs are met. And there's a container for those feelings of pain and anguish and sadness. And I mean, we can't be living in this world today, over 18 months of COVID, where the whole world doesn't know what's coming next, right? Where everything that we knew to be true is up for grabs, right? Where more and more lockdowns and things are, it's just what people have known to be their security valve, their security place, where they get up and they go to a job every day that they've known, etc. When all of those things are taken away and you have to start brand new, and you're not really sure, it brings up everything. So I think one of the things that is brought up these months and year and a half or more is really introspection, a place where we really have been forced to go, whether we've wanted to or not, to know what really matters and find ways to bring what that is into our lives in a very, very sustainable way, in an integral way, in a way in which we are being true to our true spirit. And I've seen more creativity during these months than I've ever seen. People have reinvented themselves, right?
Yeah,
So it's all possible.
It is. And it's so exciting, to hear you say that, because I think that it allows us, some of this going within really allows us the room to be creative again, to look at, how do I want to design my life? And the question that I love is, how can I fall in love with my life now?
Oh, what a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful question. And it begs every single person to ask that question and find that answer, because life is miraculous. And we don't have to go very far to find what we can celebrate right now. How I can fall in love with my life right now. Right now, I'm talking to you. I look at you, I'm in love, right? I mean, in a few minutes or when we're finished this, I'm going to go in the other room and I'll look at my budgie birdies who know nothing else but to sing. They wake up singing every day. They tell me they've earned their wings. But I mean, right? We can look at the things that we take for granted, like turning a tap and getting water, right? Not everybody has that option. Going out into nature, whatever it is, there's so many things to be grateful for. And so when we can look through that lens, then what can we, how can I, what was the question?
Well, it's how we become in love with our own lives, because there's so much to love. There's so much to be grateful for. It's all around us. It's inside of us. We don't have to seek something.
Right. And you know what else comes up to mind right now is to really acknowledge who we are and everything that we have accomplished in life to make us who we are. I mean, the book that I wrote, Your Life Matters, is because most people, no matter how much they've done in their life, they don't think it's enough. And when we start falling in love with ourselves, and whether getting out of bed that day, that it even did that matters. It's not about all the books you've written and all the TV shows you've been on and all of the hype or whatever. It's smiling at someone and it's made your day and it's made theirs. It doesn't matter. It can be little, it can be enormous, but for us to really acknowledge ourselves, to say, wow, I can love this about my life and all that I've done to get as far as I have. Instead of looking at how far I need to go, look how far I've come.
Yeah, I think that is such an important thing. I mean, you and I resonate with so many things together and are so aligned. And I feel like, that's one of the things that I have my clients do, is take that inventory and literally write down. Because sometimes I think, I have them write down the things that they've either, and not just accomplished, meaning like outside things, but things they have felt really good about that they've done in their lives. And that inventory can be so important because, we have these brains that have this natural negativity bias, and it doesn't let those things count. They just don't stick in the same way.
Right.
And so, so it's like marinating on the positive.
I love it. I love it. It's so easy to forget that, oh yeah, well, doesn't matter. I'm a single mom and I've, gotten all my kids off to school and I've worked 18 hours. And by the way, I volunteer at the homeless shelter on weekends. I mean, well, it's just my life, right? I mean, hello, so many things that we don't even, it's just what we do, but no, it's the sort of things that we can do that we can take in, like you said it, and that inspires others too. It's about because I really feel that it is and believe that it's part of our humanness to want to give back, to not just do stuff for ourselves, but that we want to share. We want what we know, and people are so ready to do that if we ask. Right? Somebody says, hey, Stephanie, could you please tell me how to, how do I change this and into that? Oh, and I'm not even talking about clients. You're in the line of somebody that you haven't seen for a million years, and you're in the line at the grocery store. I've seen you, and could you just tell me while we're in line? What are you kidding me? Absolutely, I can. And oh, sorry, you've got to go now. Well, listen, you can call me and I'll give you the rest. I mean, we just do it. But so many people are afraid to even ask. And yet that's I think an important part, that we're not alone. Yeah. We don't have to be alone. Days of the lone wolf are over.
Yes. And hopefully, we continue to learn through this process, as this whole pandemic has unfolded, that even if we're distant in location, we can be absolutely connected in our hearts. I mean, I have never felt more connected to people all around the
The
world.
world. I know. Look at us. I'm in Canada. You're in the US, right? And where are you again? San Diego?
Colorado.
I knew that.
Okay.
And I'm in Victoria, British Columbia. And right, and yeah, that's the beauty. The energy carries on these Zoom calls. The energy's energy. And it's as much as I sometimes say, oh my gosh, another Zoom call, I just hardly wait till I can hug people, and do my workshops in person and everything. I have a million things to be grateful for, and especially the connections that I've been making across the world, and that we've all been making across the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Junie, I'm curious for you during this time, what is it or what creative project now? Because I know you're so creative. What is lighting you up? What's inspiring you right now?
Well, two things are probably more. Oh yeah, there are. But in any case, I've been facilitating an authors. I help writers become authors, and so many people say, "I want to write a book," and yet they go into that. Well, who'd read it? So many people have already written a book about this subject anyway, and all that. So I help people move beyond that, and I brought both my skills as a psychotherapist and as a book writing coach over these many years, decades, into an author mentorship program. And so, I'd never done it online, but when COVID hit, I did it online and found the ways to do it. So now I'm just about to do the third one, and it's starting October 1st. And it's so incredible to be able to help writers not only write from the most empowered parts of themselves. I think what distinguishes me from other book writing coaches, and I'm sure there are many more like me out there, at least I hope so, that it's not just let's get this book out really fast. It's about working with somebody so that they feel so confident that the energy that they're putting into their work and their book is their voice and the way they want to tell it, and that they're so proud of it. So when I work with people, if they get triggered about something, we work with it. We work it with until they become, until they feel really at peace with whatever that is. So yeah, we're having another one start, and so I can tell you about that also, because I'm offering some, there's an early bird bonus for that if people want to write their books and want some coaching on that, and all of that is also on my website.
Well, and what is your website? We'll say it again at
Oh,
the end,
okay.
but let's let
It's
listeners know.
junieswadron.com, right? And yeah, and it's the author mentorship program. And so I'm taking applications for it now. It's not for people to come in and write their books. And there are so many people who have done it and are proud authors, and many on their way. And they were the same people that came in terrified, because it's one thing to write stuff, and that we feel really good about, and want to write it, and something in our soul has been saying to do it. It's another thing to go the next step and actually have it exposed in the world. It's huge. Well, you know that.
Yeah.
And I know that, right? And it takes a lot of courage to do it. There's lots of steps along the way to get there, but you can get there. And it's so exciting to hold somebody's hand on their way, on the way, right? And so that's pretty awesome.
It is awesome. And really quick, Junie, I want to make sure people know how to spell your name. That's JUNIESWADRON.com.
You got it.
All right.
Yes.
Awesome. And
Yes.
yes, please, what is the other thing?
The other thing is something that I've had a vision for. I've been carrying it since 2011. It was November 11/11 that I first showed in public a DVD of a play that I wrote many years ago, co-wrote, called Madness, Masks, and Miracles, and about the madness of the dark night of the soul that we all go through. The masks we wear to hide the madness, the shame, the pain, the grief. When people say, "How are you?" "I'm fine." So we wear that mask, and the miracles being able to take the masks off and just be real, to be comfortable enough in our own skins to be real. So we wrote a play about that, and it was to dispel myths and stigmas about mental illness. And it got high acclaim. And that was many years ago. And then years later, I put on a mental health conference, and I came up with this idea, this mission called, and that I've been carrying all this time, a vision for ACHA, the Academy for Creative and Healing Arts for people with mental health challenges. And so it's basically using creative expression for mental health. And I have, in my own life, I was diagnosed with bipolar illness when I was 20. And I was told my life was going to be a series of in and out of mental institutions. And that the older I got, the worse it was going to get. Now, I have to admit that there were a lot of years that was my life. But there was a day that I said, the buck stops here. This does not have to be my life anymore. And I've worked long and hard to be really resilient and turn my life around. And I've been very successful at it. So I know from both sides of the couch, I can go as deep down the rabbit hole as anybody needs to go in order to be raised up. And so I also facilitated a support group for the book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron for years, 15 years. And I watched people who were down and out and depressed and sad and said, I don't have a creative bone in my body, work with that program and just begin to soar through their own creative expression. It doesn't have to be about writing a book. It's not about painting an extraordinary paint. By the way, my beautiful partner, David Halliwell, did that painting. It could be growing a garden. It doesn't matter. We all are blessed with our own sense of creativity. And so anyway, I'm very excited that as soon as COVID is officially over, we will cut the ribbon of this beautiful academy where there is every single kind of opportunity of creative expression, every modality that you can possibly think of being taught. I'm not naive, so naive to think that, you hand somebody with a severe mental health challenge a paintbrush and suddenly they're going to soar. No, but there will be people called friends who have the education and have the credentials to work with various kind of people to find out who they are, to talk to them, to foster their soul back to life again. And so, and every kind of healing modality, not just creative expression, but healthy eating and programs and yoga and EFT and all of that stuff. Anyway, all under one roof in a beautiful place called the McTavish Academy of Arts. And I see it as being a template for the same sort of thing all around the world. So we're very excited. And David's my partner, had it not been for COVID, we were supposed to get married last year. And now we're waiting for it to be over so his family can come from England. Anyway, we wrote the song and it's called It's a Brand New Day for mental health. To be holding hands across the world, singing this song. It's a brand new day. So anyway, I'm kind of excited about my life.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So many incredible things happening. And Junie, as our listeners don't know yet, that this is just part one of a two-part series, and that we are going to be coming back and sharing with people even more inspiration, even more insights on part two of how they can ignite their best lives and plug into
Mm.
some of these beautiful offerings of yours. I mean, I just get lit up when I talk to you every time I talk to you, and
Me too.
so thrilled to
Oh,
have you on the show and to be sharing with our listeners. We're going to have to take a break before we come back with the magical part two. So before we leave, ways people can get a hold of you, Junie.
is junieswadron.com. My email is yourlifematters@junieswadron.com. And I think through my email and through the website, and I'm on social media everywhere. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram and all those silly things, wonderful things. And I just want to say, before I go for this one, there is an early bird bonus for anybody who does want to write their book. And if you register by September 10th, you will receive 100% off my Rewrite to Reignite Your Life self-study program. And if you register by the 17th of September, you receive 50% off the online program. And you'll also get a personally, but for both of those, an autographed copy of my #1 bestseller, Your Life Matters. So those are the early bird specials on that. And and what's this? The first, sorry, I have to read this because this stuff isn't as familiar to me. India, my wonderful, I get tongue-tied. I don't get tongue-tied too much, but when it comes to some of this stuff, I know how to facilitate it all, but when it comes to actually this, I usually have someone else, India, do it, my executive assistant. Okay, also, just this once, offering to bring a friend to the author mentorship program. If you bring a friend to register, you get 50% off the author mentorship program. And if you bring 2 friends, you get the program for free.
Oh,
That's
Junie,
pretty cool.
that's exciting. So exciting.
I know. Well, I just want to help people to get their life heart desire out there in any way I can. And if it's a match, fantastic. And if it's not, I'll just, God bless you on your journey, wherever it is. That's all we want to do, right?
Perfect. Well, and so come on back for part 2 of this amazing conversation with creative catalyst, with amazing inspirational author, teacher, Junie Swadron. Thank you, Junie, for being here. So welcome back to The Spark. I'm having a conversation with Junie Swadron. We had to do a second piece to this. So if you're watching this on video, you'll notice that we might look a little bit different than we did the first half. So we did the first half at one point, and now we get to continue the conversation, and I'm so thrilled. Junie, you've been sharing so much about your book and the work that you do. And it's just been such an amazing journey. And I'm wondering if you'd share with the audience part of what your personal journey has been. We didn't get too much into your own story. People kind of see the end product, if you will, And I think,
Right.
well, life's been easy for Junie. Look at her. She's so talented. It's so easy. She's doing these wonderful workshops and, writing must just flow so naturally for her. And yet I know for all of us, we all have our story.
We do indeed. And oh gosh, sometimes I look back, Stephanie, and I say, who was that? How did I get from there to here? And I mean it with all sincerity, because I have to pinch myself sometimes, because I feel so grateful, so filled with just humility, because my life sure didn't start off this way. And I came from the quote unquote dysfunctional family. And I don't think my parents stayed, for the kids. But the truth of the matter is, I never knew when my dad left if he was ever coming back. And, there was just a lot of unsafety, put it that way. And I mean, it was a bit crazy making, because my mom, in some ways, you wouldn't want a better mom. She was loving and kind and articulate and beautiful and fun and witty and great cook. She could switch on a dime and suddenly be Jekyll and Hyde, somebody you wouldn't want to come near. So my siblings and I never knew who we would wake up to. And so that was a bit crazy making. I mean, I used to say to myself, well, if my mother was always just mean and this, that, and the other, you come to expect that. But when you've got this tender, loving, caring, beautiful, compassionate, empathetic mom who your teenage friends just want to come and hang out with, well, that's all you ever want, right? I mean, who would want more? And then suddenly you wake up to somebody who's like a shrew. So it wasn't particularly easy. Okay, so that was, and I've always been very, very sensitive. And my dad used to say to me, Junie, you wear your heart on your sleeve. I think you need to toughen up some. And he was right. I just never knew how. So I'm not sure I do now either. Just have better boundaries. So, so life was hard, but what was not hard was that this a balancing act or whatever. Two things. One, it seemed like I was always able to make friends. And, people would gravitate to me and I them. And so that was really a saving grace for sure, as was my journal. It was like, a little diary back then. And it became my only private place. Even my best friends didn't know what was going on in my house. You just don't talk about those things. My sisters and I used to say on my mother's tombstone, we would always say, where do your loyalties lie? So anyway, yeah, anyway, won't go there. But I love you, Mom. I mean, everybody's just walking their walk, doing the best they can, right? And you can get to a place in your life and you can really appreciate and know that is true. It's not like I'm perfect, that's for sure. So that journal, that little diary, was a safe place for me. It was the one place that I could have a voice. But I experienced very, very, very deep depressions. And I hated school. I was told I was stupid. I was told all, between home and teachers, that I'd never amount to anything. And so I grew up with that complex and took it on. It became a belief that that's true. And it took many, many years. I was like already 28, 30 when I met a friend. I met a woman who became a very close friend, who was an educator. And she just said, Junie, go back to school and you can do this. And she supported me, and I aced it in university. And, where I was failing throughout all of my, former years. I went back as a mature student. I don't know how mature I was, but anyway, that's what they called it.
Yeah.
But then, you know, I was diagnosed at the age of 19 with bipolar illness. Well, in those years, they called it manic depressive illness. And in those years, they would put you in a hospital and pretty much throw away the key. They would just drug you. And so I have to say, Stephanie, for a lot of years, my life was like a revolving door in and out of those hospitals. And there's a thing, I mean, I'm a psychotherapist as well. I went to, you know, I started off as a court reporter, went back to school to do that. That wasn't for me. I'm too sensitive to be in an adversarial environment every day and not have a voice. So, but it gave me the funds to go back to school to become a therapist. And that felt like the right, and it was totally the right profession for me. It's my calling. But the illness was still there. You know, and I've come to know both through professionally and being on both sides of the couch that once it gets to a certain chemical imbalance in your brain, it has a mind of its own. It does not matter how much you know and how much yoga and meditation and tools that you have, or how many people love you. It just spins on its own axis, and it's almost impossible to stop. And so it was a journey. It was an absolute journey to find the means to know that I'm not my diagnosis and I'm not my prognosis. And actually, David and I put a new song together that is for mental health. I talked about ACHA, the Academy for Creative and Healing Arts. And I always envisioned for people with mental health challenges. And I always envisioned a song that would be written for people who have mental health issues or like major anxiety, or I mean, just being in this earth today, who doesn't have anxiety? You know, nobody knows any certainty about anything. And so we're all walking around going, what the, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, we wrote a song. I wrote the lyrics just a few weeks ago, and I'm very excited. And so part of those lyrics are, the song's called It's a Brand New Day. And you're not your diagnosis, you're not your prognosis. Make a fresh start or something like that. It's a brand new day. And time to put down the label. If you can, you are able. I forget all the words. But anyway, it's already gone to the studio. David's already put down the first track. So that's very exciting. So I had to find that essence inside of me that I could believe in me. And it's been a journey. It's been a long, painful journey, but I can say many things. There's always been mentors and kind people, or the right books that would fall from the shelf. There's always something that would open my heart a little bit more, and people that would reflect back to me who I really am, and that I'm not that stupid girl Miss Stewart told me I was, and everyone else seemed for a long, long time. And until the first time I got back a paper from university, it was like, and it was a B+, I think. And I thought, and in those years too, I don't know how they do it now, but if you really wanted your mark, you would, at the end of the whatever, that semester, you give them, they send it to you. And when I received it, but you have to send them a prepaid post envelope. I waited about a year. I knew I failed. There was no question in my brain. And when I got it back, I was sure they were talking about somebody else. And I had to call the school. Did you, is that really mine? And then, yeah. And then after that, I was just acing it. I would get A's, A+, and I realized I love learning. And I've learned a lot. And now at the ripe age of, excuse me, 72, I feel happy. I've been feeling this way for a lot of years, and many, many years. And I love my life, and I'm good at what I do. And I don't say it pride. Well, part of me does, because I am proud of my accomplishments, and I've gone down the rabbit hole as far as a person can get. So I'm not afraid to go that depth with anybody. I have tried to end my life, and there, but for the grace of God, go I. And I've never even spoken in public about that until Robin Williams took his life. And I know all about masks. I know all about pretending. And so I did write a play years ago called Madness, Masks, and Miracles, about the madness or the dark night of the soul we all go through. We can't not, living on the planet. The masks we wear to hide the pain, the shame, the regret, the sorrow, the grief. And then the miracles that allow us to take off those masks and just be real. So, and that came after a hospitalization, another one for deep, deep depression. When I got my balance back again and the phones were ringing off the hook because people were signing up for my workshops, I just said, no. I said, I can't go back to work. This is 20 years ago. Nothing much has changed in terms of a lot has changed. More and more people are being able to expose and talk about their stories of whatever they are, mental health. And so it normalizes it. It gives people more permission to share their own. And when I went back, or after that hospitalization, I knew I couldn't pretend. I'd already been a therapist for many years, that I couldn't pretend that I'm well and you need fixing. Now, that's not my style, for sure. But at the same time, I never told any of my clients that, patients, whatever, that what's going on for me. So I knew I needed to do some deep soul searching work and I just took the time off. I didn't even know how I'd pay the rent, but I just said, okay, I just need to find the truth in me of what's next. And I kept hearing, you got to tell your story. And I said, oh, you don't mean me, you mean somebody else. I don't do that. I help other people do that. By the time I'd already been facilitating a support group through the book, The Artist's Way. And I watched people just spread their wings and fly, people who never thought they were creative. And, and the message wouldn't go away. So that's how that play came into being, to dispel myths and stigmas about mental illness. And it actually got produced in a lot of great acclaim and allowed people to come up and tell their stories. And and since then I'm on this path. I've always been on a spiritual path, and I think that has been my saving grace. I came in that way. It didn't, it wasn't a new thing when the New Age came in. I was in my 20s when I found this place in Toronto where I lived called Mind Awareness New Age Center, and nobody was talking about any of that stuff then, and I felt I'd come home. So that's a long answer.
Well, it's such a beautiful story. It's filled with so much, hope to me. I don't even know if that's the right word, but I think it's so important that people hear this message, because we do know so many millions of people are living with mental illness. And I think that it's so important to dispel some of these myths. And to also, I love when you said, that's not just who I am. I'm not going to define myself just by my mental illness.
Right.
I think that is such an imperative piece, that people live with mental illness, but they are their beautiful embodied spirits.
Exactly.
And how important it is, for us to get to that essential self, that essence of us, which I know from knowing you now, Junie, it's so awesome. It's so much light. It's so much joy. It's so much of this compassion and empathy and connection with other people and wanting to serve this planet.
Oh gosh, yes.
So I'm inspired in the way that you've gone down the rabbit hole and that pain. And I always feel like so much of the time, and not that this has to be our narrative forward,
Mhm.
but I know that so much of the time, the things that we've gone through I think as a therapist for me too, the really difficult challenges in my life have made me, a really incredible therapist because I've been at those depths. I've felt those levels of pain or despair in my own life. And so I know then it's like I always have that feeling whoever walks into my office, there's going to be some touch points. There's going to be a resonance. There's going to be, that ability to hold that person's pain. And I think that's a beautiful gift as therapists that we do with our clients, is to be able to really see them and hold them
A
in
hundred
whatever their
percent.
experience.
I think that's what we all want more than anything. We want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be acknowledged. We want our hearts, the pure part of ourselves, to be witnessed by someone else who can hold that space.
Yeah.
And I know you do that. I know that. I mean, you ooze love and kindness. You so do, Stephanie.
Thank you. Well, and I know that you have, speaking of sharing things with the world, I know that you have a poem that you said you wanted to share with us in closing. I would love for you to read one of your
Okay,
poems
you know
for
what?
us.
It came to my brain just a few minutes before we came on. And it's now part of a book that's coming out next week, I think. But it's a collection of I think 25 women. It's called you think I know the name of the book? The Wisdom of the Silver Sisters, and each of us had a piece to just offer.
Wonderful.
So okay, so I'll just share this, that last year in October, David and I went to a retreat center not far from here. And I was in turmoil, wanting the world to go away, because I was just in my usual, so busyness. And because whatever, overspent. I was in a place where I just needed some peace and quiet. And so we went to this retreat center, and I couldn't sleep. I couldn't, because my nervous system was already so over, right? Usually a lot of us go on a vacation for a week or two or whatever. It takes the first week just to settle, right? And so here I was, and David said, he threatened me basically. He said, if I don't take advantage of this time here, he was going to take my computer and my cell phone. So I threatened him right back. I said, okay, I'm going to take your car keys, because he had to leave the next day. So he stayed silent for a while, and then he handed me my journal. He said, okay, here's a prompt for you. Get up and write, in this piece I shall. Well, reluctantly, I got up and I wrote this. Okay, I'm just going to take a sip of water. Okay. In this piece, I shall find God. In this piece, I shall find me. In this piece, I will unravel. I will twist and turn and be shoved and shaken. And in this piece, I shall not resist. I will not hang on onto rugged branches that jet out from the banks. I will not grasp onto their temporary refuge from the raging rapids. No, I shall let the river take me to and fro, winding down and around its billowing, unpredictable force field. I surrender here fully, even though my heart is pumping faster than hurricane blood, coursing, exploding through this body's fragile temple, lungs infused with God's purest prana. And I know, even throughout this unstoppable force, leading me to destinations unseen, unknown, and uncharted, never before have I felt this safe. In these rapids, I shall find peace that surpasses all understanding, and I shall rest here. Here I am, the eye of the storm, an impartial witness in waters gone mad, born of lost dreams and uncertainty, yet I am still, I am peace. Did I really think my puny hands, no matter how tightly I clenched them, would save me? Such naivete. I am ready to see, feel, and know myself as the God I am. I am ready to drop the scales from my eyes and open them as a newborn baby does, seeing the world and its majestic splendor for the very first time. I am that baby, born anew, joyous, curious, joyful, unstoried, and free. Yes, the raging rapids of my life could have bounced and broken me against a million boulders, smashed me into shards of glass, rendering me defeated, hopeless, dead even. Instead, the sea in all her compassionate glory opened its arms to this inner river's untamed fury, infusing the turmoil with gentle, rocking motion, a lullaby quieting the unrelenting noise, the torture chamber of the mind, shape-shifting me from high alert into unsuspecting emptiness and grace. Pure exhaustion finally surrendered itself, its last grasp of holding on, only to arrive naked upon pristine beaches. Mother Earth's welcoming breast, seducing me into deep, peaceful slumber, washing clean all that went before. And when I woke, it was as though 1,000 nights had passed, rested, restored, rendered brand new, bearing witness to heaven on earth. Here I vowed to walk with the angels and saints who carried me here. I vowed to remain humble in this glorious land of Eden. Here I now taste the palate of milk and honey, ready to savor its gifts in sustainable ways. And I shall walk among others who have suffered bruises too horrific to name. They too had raging river rapids now transformed into calm blue seas. And it is here that we meet and recognize one another, our tribe, Stephanie. And it is our mission to walk together to shine our gratitude, our love, and our light. We walk fearlessly, hand in hand, into storms, calming the seas of disquiet for all those ready to walk among us and know the promise and the peace of God that beats our collective hearts as one. In this peace, we walk together, co-creating with our Maker. In this peace, we find truth. In this peace, we are one. In this peace, we are love. In this peace, we are home.
Oh my goodness, I just got the chills. Junie, thank you so much for the beautiful poem, for sharing the beautiful essence that is you with all of us. Thank you so much for being here on The Spark.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you so much. What a pleasure, what a gift, what a joy.
Thanks for tuning in to The Spark with Stephanie James. Remember that you already have what you need to live a life that is fully lit and fully alive. You're already holding the flame. Now it's time to ignite your best life. Learn more at stephaniejames.world. That's stephaniejames.world. And tune in next week at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, only on transformationtalkradio.com. Shine on!